and the technique for writing chapters and scenes that are good. Because when you can write them, ones that are good, you will then build up to a good book. Because even if your story is good, if your scenes are like not tight and just kind of like flowery all over, it's really hard to get people to read a whole book, to tell you that. So you want to write a book in 2024. This is the video for you. Hi, my name is Nicole Wilbur. I am a writer and story nerd. I've been on YouTube here talking about writing for almost 3 years now, about 2.5 years. How is that possible? No, almost 4 years. Oh my God, that's a long time. And I've been writing seriously for that whole time. I've written 3 books in the past 4 years. I'm working towards getting an agent, so I'm not an expert. I am not usually here to give prescriptive advice. I am not giving prescriptive advice. I arguably have no idea what I'm talking about, except I think if you are new, I might have some insight to offer. This is a video about how to learn how to write a book. Because as I have been on YouTube and observed people posting about their milestones and their writing author journeys, I've noticed a few common milestones, stages of writer-ism, one might say, that I think would be really useful, or would have been useful for me to know before I started writing. You know, on a graph, there's a graph of like progress and becoming better, if we imagine. I will try to put it on the screen here for you. And most of the time you're going like this, right? You're like on a steady slope of increase, we hope, getting better and better and better. But then sometimes in our learning journeys, there's something that just goes like, and you have like a big jump. I will try to show it again on the screen. You're going like steady here, and then suddenly you go like, and then you go, and then, and those whoops are things that a lot of writers have in common. And I have tried to take the most common whoops, that's the word I used, inflection points, the beginning writer learning inflection points, and put them together to talk about them. So I have 6 inflection points on this list because there's probably more than 6, but I have only experienced up to 6. So that's what we're gonna talk about. The first inflection point is starting. That's the first hurdle to overcome as a new writer. You have to actually start writing a novel. The next inflection point is finishing. And I gotta tell you, there is a huge gap. Like, a lot of people want to and never start. A lot of people start and a lot of them never finish. So finishing is a hugely important inflection point. The next inflection point is rewriting and revising 1. The next inflection point is feedback. The next inflection point is rewriting and revising 2. And the next inflection point is polish. When you hit these inflection points, these are the times to celebrate, because from like a mindset perspective and a skill perspective, finishing one of these stages and moving on to the next is a huge deal. In this video though, I'm going to focus on the first one, which is starting, because it is the start of 2024 and you are starting. A lot of people do count themselves out. So if you're thinking about doing it, don't count yourself out. I have a friend, when we were like 12 years old, she wrote in the yearbook that she wanted to be an editor because she can't write books, but she can read them. You're 12. You don't know that you can't write a book. Come on. She already counted herself out from being an author. At 12, guys, you can do it. Anybody can write a book. Anybody, I think, can learn these skills and can hone them and can write a book. I don't know if everyone can write a best-selling book. I don't know if everyone can write a book that wins the Pulitzer, but everybody can. And if you want to, you should. Anyways, you have to start getting words on the page. This is a confidence, motivation thing. Don't count yourself out. So how do you start? How do you start writing? If I was to go again, this is what I would do. I would start by writing scenes, not trying to write a full book. I would try to write scenes. So a lot of people suggest writing short stories. I don't love this advice because I don't read a lot of short stories, and neither do a lot of other people who are starting to write books who are told to write short stories. It's a different genre, right? Like, if you want to write a novel, writing a literary short story won't teach you how, because it's like completely different audiences. So if you don't read short stories, don't try to write them. Instead, my suggestion is to write scenes instead, and write scenes in the genre you want to write in. So if you want to write an epic fantasy, start by setting yourself a goal of writing a few scenes in a fantasy world. Writing a good scene is hard, and it's the building block of story. Scenes are about change, right? Like a change in the story state or a change in the character. Like at the start of the scene, our friend is in jail. At the end, we've broken them out. Or at the start of the scene, the characters are a couple. At the end, they're not. Or at the end, there's more trust than there was before, or there's less trust. The scenes that, if I was doing this again, I would write scenes from my own book idea, writing the scenes that I see in my head, the ones that I'm excited about. I wouldn't worry about the rest of the story. If I was writing a romance, maybe I would write the meet cute or the scene where they break up. And then like take the scene and like edit the scene and make sure you get to the point where the character is having a crisis decision point and there is an outcome from it and something does change. And can you end the scene on a cliffhanger? And can you write an opening that hooks people? It's 3,000 words, right? We're talking about like 3,000 words here. That's all I would start with. Some scenes like mine are more like 1,500 because I like things tight and fast paced. Honestly, I wish so hard I had learned how to write a good scene before I started writing a full-length novel, because it is really difficult to get good feedback on a full-length novel, but it is quite easy to get people to give you feedback on 3,000 words, and you can learn so much from that feedback. And that was the biggest inflection point in my writing, is when I got feedback on my scenes, the scene level, and the technique for writing chapters and scenes that are good. Because when you can write them, ones that are good, you will then build up to a good book. Because even if your story is good, if your scenes are like not tight and just kind of like mish, flowery all over, it's really hard to get people to read a whole book, to tell you that. And so I would choose a scene, give my main character something they want, an intention, be clear about the obstacles in their way, make sure all the characters in this scene are wanting something and working towards it. And then work towards, so work for the character. So there's obstacle, turning point. The turning point leads to a decision. One character makes a decision, even if it's small, subtle, or quiet. It's there, that happens 75 to 80% of the way through the scene-ish. And then we get a result of the decision and a little bit of the resolution. And then we work it and we make it interesting. And even folks, sites like Scribify is great for this, for getting feedback on a scene unto itself and learning how to be better. I would write a scene. I would, if I'm scared to show it to people in my life, post it on Scribify, get feedback. Ask someone, like a critique partner, someone you meet on the internet, someone like me, to just like read your scene and give you feedback. Actually, I'd be so willing to do that. I love CPing for people. Sometimes I get busy and can't, but I'm always very happy to read a scene for someone and give them feedback, especially if you're just starting to write. I know feedback was like its own inflection point, but it's so important. And on a scene level, it's so important to learn how to do those things in a scene where it turns, where you make change, where you have someone working towards something, where you're ending on a bang. Like all of those little elements that make something so good, those are so hard. And if you can work on that in micro, that's great. The other part of starting, of course, so once you've worked on scenes for a while potentially, is doing a lot of that story work. And I don't say outlining or plotting, I mean story work. The actual creation of story and learning how to create a story. Remembering that storytelling is different than writing. In working on scenes, we're working on the writing, really. In story work, we're working on story on its own. It's the theory there, the structure. Someone could be a great writer and a horrible storyteller, and vice versa. So anyways, moving on. You are starting, so you need resources and help to start. Start free. then I suggest Brandon Sanderson's BYU lectures. YouTube channels like Michelle Schusterman or Alexa Dunn has really good stuff. Alyssa something. She is a former editor, worked in publishing. She has a really good channel as well. Also podcasts, things like Writing Excuses, The Shit No One Tells You About Writing podcast, Fiction Writing Made Easy. All of these very helpful free resources for you to get into. If you are wanting to read books and invest a little bit of money in this, these are the books I would suggest, and I'm going to give them to you in the order that I wish I had read them. The first one is The Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogel, because it goes over the hero's journey, which is so basic and fundamental and like core to storytelling. It, to be fair, I think skips over a couple of stages of the hero's journey, which involves like the meeting with the goddess, but it's like a really easy read. It's in-depth, it's interesting, it's well written. I would go there. The next one I would read is Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody, because that gives you a beat sheet, so a shape for a larger story. It helps you kind of modernize the lessons you learned in the writer's journey, and it gets you into the realm of thinking about genre, which is extremely, extremely important. The next book I would read is Story Genius by Lisa Cron, because what she says about characters' misbeliefs and such, I think is so important to writing good characters, and that really unlocked the concept of character arcs for me and forming character arcs. So Writer's Journey is like your basic fundamental story structure. Save the Cat is a lot on plot. Story Genius is character. Anatomy of Story by John Truby I would recommend. Also reading relevant chapters on anatomy of genre, but it like gets very complicated. However, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. It might help you think, not help you think outside of 3-act structure, because that's not important, but give you like alternative insights into what you learned in Save the Cat. Thinking about the values and connecting your theme to the plot and the characters even deeper. There's lots of good stuff in there. I really suggest it. And then number 5 is the Story Grid. I don't necessarily suggest buying the book, and you don't need to make the graph, but the website has a lot of good stuff on it. And I would go in and kind of take some time to learn about their genres, the concept of value shifts, the concept of the 5 commandments of storytelling. Those are, again, very helpful for structure and very helpful for scenes, especially the 5 commandments of storytelling. If you're writing scenes, read the Story Grid because it is great. The podcast, there's lots of back episodes, especially the early ones where Sean is learning how to write a scene, and Tim is learning how to write a scene and Sean is giving him feedback. Those are really good as well. So those are my resource suggestions for you. Just a note at the very end, if you are interested in investing in your writing, I would generally recommend investing in feedback on your writing. So if you're choosing between a course, an online course that costs quite a bit of money, or hiring an editor, even if it's just for 10, 15 pages, I would suggest the editor. A lot of editors can give you feedback on your first 5 pages in a query letter for less than $100. If the course is over $100 and doesn't include feedback from someone, don't get it. Like, my thought is that writing advice is great, but you don't know what you need until you get feedback. And, no one is like God. It's still your story. People can be wrong. But you want someone to read your writing and tell you how you're doing and how they're experiencing your writing, and to recommend resources and things to work on from there, because there are things you will be inherently good at and there are things you will be inherently not good at, and there's things that you haven't even thought about that you're not doing, and you need someone else to read your work to get there. So that is always my suggestion. Peer feedback is great also. You can get that for free as well. If you don't have people in your writing circle, it can be really tricky to find someone to do that. You don't want feedback from your family. They aren't the people who can help you. I, again, would go and do professional feedback if you literally don't have any critique partners. There's also one program that I'm in right now is called, it's group mentoring by Write Mentor. It's great. It includes both professional feedback from a published author and weekly peer feedback on, I think it's 3,000 words. So you're submitting 3,000 words 2 or 3 times a month, twice a month, and getting feedback on it and giving feedback as well. Both of these things are incredibly valuable. You want feedback on your writing. Invest in the feedback before you invest in some expensive course, especially if you hear a course say that you'll never ever need a course and write a novel in 30 days and this is the one trick that will help you make a bestseller. All of that is scammy and untrue, so don't do that. And there we go. Those are my recommendations if I was to start my writing journey seriously again today. Let me know what you think. If you are further along in your writing journey, let me know what tips and advice you have. If you're just starting, I would love to hear about it. I would love to be able to cheer you on. Again, I am always looking for critique partners and feedback exchanges and that kind of thing. So if you are interested in getting some feedback, you can leave a comment, shoot me a message. I have a website with a contact form and also a Substack. Go there, check it out. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Check out my Substack as well. I have an accompanying article on this that kind of breaks everything down in a very cohesive way, because I am a writer, not a talker, so sometimes it comes out better in the articles. So go check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.